Meeting's called to order. We're gonna do roll call first. Tyler Bradbury, excuse you. Peter Davis, here. Mr. Hartman, present. Bill Kagan, excuse. Fred Miller.
Here.
And Tom Henderson. Absent. Sharon Fetter. Here. Ken Budge, County Council Liaison.
Here.
Emmanuel Stewart, Staff Liaison.
Here.
And Joe Ward, Building Inspector. Code
Here.
enforcement. All right. So, the first thing we have an applicant, Jeffrey Bedine, 105 C Street, Bisbee, Arizona, 85603, who's requesting a variance to place a tiny home / recreational vehicle on their R1 zone property. At this point, then we'll open the public hearing. And is there a presentation by the applicant?
Handouts only have 5 copies.
All right, the board here.
Okay, don't worry about it.
And then remember to introduce yourself at the podium.
Okay. My name is Jeff Woodlawn. I own the property at 105 C Street, in Saginaw.
Yeah, we got that.
These are more personalized photos.
Okay. All right.
My intention, I moved from Nebraska to Bisbee, to the local area, and I travel a lot. And I have some notes. I'm just going to read my notes, so forgive me if it sounds kind of. Our country is going to largely do the biggest exacerbated by increasing interest rates coupled with low inventory historically high home prices. High quality tiny homes such as mine are an excellent affordable housing solution. In addition, they require exponentially less electricity and water resources than typical homes. When researching where to put my tiny home, I learned that Arizona is considered a top 3 state for tiny homes, along with Texas and Florida. I found my lot in Saginaw after first seeing another lot for sale in Safeway that is listed as a great spot for a tiny home site. So that led me to believe that tiny homes are allowed in Bisbee. When I purchased the lot, I told my realtor, the seller's realtor, and every contractor I spoke with about my plan to place my tiny home on the lot. At the time, nobody mentioned anything about zoning restrictions. It was not until the day my tiny home was delivered that the city inspector informed me of the zoning restrictions. At this time, I invited Joe, the inspector, to tour my home and reminded him of our earlier phone conversation. He also mentions, he mentioned his awareness of the advertised lot in the Safeway stating, I can see how you would get the impression, so yes, and I'm not going to go about that conversation. But you're a lot of tiny homes. At this time, he also granted my electrical permit and gave the green-light permit to the city grid. My tiny home is a timber frame home permanently attached to a trailer, see handout. The trailer is arguably more stable than a concrete foundation, which means eventually will not crack into sediment. The name tiny tumbleweed, in fact, is derived from the fact that the structure has roots and is mobile. My personal financial investment to purchase the lot, clear and scrape the land and debris left after the fire, replace the water, sewer, and electrical lines, and install a pole for the APS requirement worth $33,000. My tiny home is valued at $133,000, so I have $166,000 invested. According to contractors I spoke with, only a handful of current houses in Saginaw are built to code. Was my tumbleweed tiny home needs to exceed modern RVI or building codes. Finally, I'd like to note that most of the houses in Saginaw were once moved to their current locations in the early to mid part of the last century. There are numerous RVs currently parked throughout the neighborhood, many of which appear to be occupied. And finally, the adjacent lot has been allowed to remain unclaimed through 25.
Comments by any persons in favor, you have a 3-minute time limit to speak, and if you have comments, or is anyone else in favor of this, have any comments they'd like to come up and make? And if you do, please step to the podium and give us your name.
Good evening. My name is Brian Elmer. I have a property that one block away, 101 B Street. It is vacant, so my interest is as a neighbor and then maybe a future builder. I'm categorically opposed because of that. He makes some very good arguments. They're all valid for the most part. I went by and looked at the property a week ago, and personally thought it was a little close to the road, but my minimum was to be in line with the rest of the houses. Jeff's done that. Actually, wound it up. I'm not telling opposed that, but it is perfectly in line with the rest of the block. Not sure what I can add to his argument or I hope he gets it. I would later probably, I have personally looking for maybe a 400 square foot option or park model one day. I prefer to build out Adobe that we found a lot up on Tunnel Walker, so we may not do the Adobe thing down there. So I'm a guess. That's probably 3 minutes.
I appreciate your comment. Would anyone else in favor like to step up and speak? Let us know your name.
My name is John Johnson, and I live at 107 C Street. I'm a neighbor of Jeff. And I don't see no reason why we shouldn't be there as a neighbor. And we put a lot of money in clearing his lot, and I think he would make a good neighbor. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, sir. Are there any other comments?
Can I add a comment?
Yes, you can make one real quick.
Thank you. My name is Brian Elmer again, 101 B Street. One thing between his property and mine is the lot that burnt down.
Yeah.
And we still have work to do to clear that out. Looks like someone put an RV type structure on that already, and then it has yet to be cleared. I would volunteer to clear it, but I was advised to, back off. There's legal implications, etc. So I back off. But, his idea is much better than what's nearby.
Thank you. Heard all of your favorite comments. We're going to are there anyone here that's opposed?
I have comments too.
Yes, you do. We did their comment.
This last name is Bruce Walker, and they are opposed, and they also posed the question was why was it already in place and set up and the utilities done? But he was opposed to having it there. And that's it.
Okay. All right. Hearing that there are no more comments from opposition, we're going to move on to a summarization by city staff. Emmanuel, is that you? Or Joe?
I also forgot I have a couple of meetings to sign, thing that they were approved.
Okay, we'll get back to it. Thank you.
Really quickly,
Could you introduce yourself?
hi, Emmanuel Stewart, the tenant, pleased to be with you. And so, I just looked a lot at this, I like it. It's, but this unit, it's a recreational vehicle. more likely to fit into an alternative lodging park. And that requires a minimum parcel size of a half acre. It could be reasonable in this specific instance to allow manufactured tiny homes in the R1 zone property for recreational vehicle. If you wanted to look at it as sort of a manufactured home, like in the manufactured home code. However, the specifications of this unit included in the application look more like a recreational vehicle.
Well, definition is it isn't a demonic tiny home. And the tiny homes are permitted on the property. Those site built homes are required. And tiny homes are site built, they're site requirement. Jeff is a great guy in this, but that's not the issue here. Yeah, we said he was built according to RVIA code, which of course is not in the doc. Keep in mind that it's not in the doc.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Is there rebuttal by the applicant here now? Same rules apply?
My name is Jeff Delon, from Eastern. I guess where I'm at is that, again, I'm not trying to welcome anybody's photos in town. I think it's really, he left the room, but for a peaceful life. I have a boat fish and 2 farm trees. I'm not doing drugs or anything. I prepare myself, I go to studio and I found it home and meditate the whole thing. So my intentions are good. If I had thought even the slightest that this was going to be a problem, I never would have invested all this money and time to move all the way across the country and to be here in front of everybody. My biggest argument at this point kind of goes back, aside from this specifications, I'm going to assume that the rules as written now were written for, I think, in this country. Like I got caught in a situation after I sold a house in for one, the interest rates went through the roof, housing prices went through the roof, and I'm still making the same amount of money. Now I have to agree with what I'm going to do. I'm a minimalist, and society is telling everybody to decrease their carbon footprint. That's exactly what I've done. I've decreased my carbon footprint completely. I'm living minimally, and that's been my intention. And the Jeff Pick one will continue to be my intention, but I don't know what people are supposed to do. I mean, this is a great housing solution that I found after a lot of research and it's the best one we found. So I would hope that open minds will see this as a potential model for what's possible. This isn't a cheaply built structure. It's a very structure, and I invite everybody to be able to see it for yourself. But that with floors, and it's an R16 rating insulation, and stick built time walls and beautiful scenes, and I've got a walk-in door and everything. So it's highly professional electrical buildings, protection done, and I call it crazy stuff. So again, I'm sorry I'm in the this word, but it's just the best I can.
Really quickly, I just have you everybody have your microphones. I just got a message from Joe about they can really hear you very well.
Oh, certainly.
Thank you.
You got us, Joe? Can you hear us, Joe?
Yeah, I can hear you. The lectern is very garbled.
And these are the 3 neighbors to, I want to talk to 3 neighbors in their lot.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Mayor?
Stand by the mayor. Just for your information, due to this particular board of adjustment meeting, the last one, I'd asked for the P&Z to stand up and
look into this whole situation of what is considered our definition of manufactured homes, whether, things have changed, look at, tiny homes. So I'm hoping it will show up on the next P and Z meeting. They might take a while. There'll be public hearings on it, and maybe something will come before the council. But just to let you know that these are the rules as they stand, but we're trying to, what's going to be changed if they meet things that we need in the city. But as it is now, it is what it is. That I asked if those things be looked at. So, okay, thanks.
Any other comments, anybody in the audience, anything else? All right, we're going to close the public hearing. Discussion of variance application among the board members, and we really include the city attorney on that. And city staff, if we need to, we can ask questions, right, Joe? Joe Estes?
Yes, you can ask questions from anybody.
All right, thank you. I like to make sure.
I can ask a question of the applicant.
Absolutely.
Okay, sir. Yes. Before you bought the property, when you were interested in this, did you read the zoning code at all?
No, as I mentioned in my statement, my process was, I looked at places that were.
Right.
Yeah, the answer is no, but I did hire a professional real estate agent. I let both my buyer, my agent and the seller's agent know what I was doing as well as other contractors. I thought, I'm not being ignorant, but isn't it a good job of telling me that people.
It is, you might have complaining, as a matter of fact. The other thing is, you just moved it on the property before you had any okay or anything from the city, is that correct?
Again, it's, thinking back to the financial process between the, I hired a professional
Right.
contractor.
No, I understand that, I'm asking you, you moved the tiny, home onto the property before there was any city involvement, is that correct?
That would be, something like, I know it's an adult and full take responsibility for things I don't know, but, it didn't even occur to me that it's been, I wasn't trying to get away with it.
No, but I'm not trying to railroad you in any kind of way or anything like that. We need to, for me, I just need to have information about what you've done in your process.
Yeah.
The other thing I noticed is that you bought the land August 1st, is that correct? Of this year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't have any other.
Just a clarification, you said that, the city came out, that Joe came out and he permitted you with, an electrical permit and,
I got all the permits, the water and the oil.
okay, so when you went out, Joe, did you have permit and, did you want to, I'm curious as to how that happened, did you know that you had a home on there or what?
Yeah, Jeff and I had already had our discussion, that the electrical service is not in violation of anything, and I'm required to, I'm in that situation, I'm required to issue it. It's not a problem to be issued.
Yeah, and did you mention to him that they were the zoning?
Yeah, this is days, when Food Tank, it was a number of days after that, we had, Jeff would come into City Hall to get a permit for a unit, and this was permissible. And so we went out and we said, what's already here? We went out and looked at it, but, so it was several days after that, so he was, at that point, we were both very aware of what was going on.
Oh, big problem with that. Thank you. Exactly.
Okay, I have another couple of clarifications.
All right, I'll make you a question.
Yeah, and what it was just electric service, yeah.
Sure.
It's just on a pole, it isn't
Correct. I
It isn't.
understand. Yeah, right. It wasn't-
And I did replace the pole and replace the water, so we can go that, all we replace.
I didn't want to say I appreciate that, you didn't get all the information you should have gotten from the realtor, and that you put a lot of money into the property there, and did all these things, and I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
both of those, both of those in my mind, I mean, I've got all the evidence of some emails, long conversations about it, and everybody was very, this is some of the meetings now, the management, but my experience was, everybody was very happy to accept my checks.
No,
Okay,
And then the day the checks were done, right, and you can't do that, so.
okay, that's good. That, is it possible to remove the wheels from that unit and put it on a permanent foundation?
If I stayed here, that's my intention, I'd stay, remove the wheels,
Okay. So back over to, Joe, is that you were saying that it doesn't have, there's no city code for these tiny homes, is that correct?
It's not permitted to have.
Okay, if it was off its wheels and put on a permanent foundation, would it be inspectable and
If the Arizona, well, if you guys can really allocate the grant variance of it, but what you would need is the Arizona Office of Manufactured Housing to issue the visual disintegrated permit effect, and the studio, whether they would issue from the RD, that's outside of that.
So, the deputy would contact this organization and ask if they would give a certification, I suppose, as a as a manufacturer. And then, you'd have to come back here, because manufactured homes are not allowed in, who's on the properties, and then if we said, sure, go ahead and do it, we'll do it for you. You know,
I'm gonna, Joe, Estes,
Yes, ma'am.
yes. I take it you heard all that?
It was very garbled.
Okay, so Cato's question, you want to repeat your question to Joe, Estes, please?
Sure.
I like to hear the attorneys and.
Okay, Joe, so from what I understand, Cato, Joe, was saying that, Joe Ward was saying that in order for the, city to recognize the permitting of the, structure, that it would have to get permitted by the Arizona OMH. And at that point, then it would be considered a manufactured home. And that, but manufactured homes are not allowed on R1 zone property. And so then, the applicant would have to come back to the Board of Adjustment for a variance, which I'm assuming at that point, the wheels would have to be removed from the vehicle, for it to be considered, allowable on a property, because RVs are not allowed as permanent, dwellings on a property. Do I have that right? No. Okay, the mayor is saying no.
Well, I think the concern would be has the applicant met all of the requirements for a variance to show that, this was not essentially this is a condition of the property and not something that was caused by or that this issue is put into effect by the applicant. As you know, in order to approve a variance, there's specific aspects of the variance that the board has to find that were met by the applicant. And I just want to make sure that with the discussion that's been going on, that there's been discussion with regard to that process.
self-imposed.
Sorry, was that a question for me? The lectern is very garbled.
I'm sorry, Joe, this is the mayor, I just said self-imposed. I think that's what.
Well, I guess my comment is, you know, as we had a different but similar situation a couple weeks ago where somebody wanted to put a manufactured home on a lot. And we denied that because the zoning very specifically says no RV, no manufactured homes allowed on a lot. Now, because of that meeting, the mayor has asked our planning and zoning to further a definition of what a tiny home is, what an RV is, and manufactured home, and whether that needs to be adjusted or something. In my view is, I would love to welcome you to Bisbee. You sound like a nice cat. You've done everything by the rules that we knew of, but we can't. When we grant a variance, that can set a precedent for other people to say, well, if you granted a variance for this guy who's got a tiny home but it's on wheels, then we want to put this over here. And so that's a problem for us. And so, and I understand you put a lot of money in the property. I think you bad advice from the realtor. But I don't see how that we can put a variance on it because it's a mobile structure the way it is. Whether if you put a concrete pad down, took the wheels off, put a concrete pad down, took the hitch off, or one person I know today suggested putting a deck over the hitch, whether that would meet the qualifications for that zoning there. I understand that there's been houses moved there historically, that the neighborhood is somewhat in disrepair, but that doesn't mitigate what we have to decide here. So I am not in favor of it.
All right, and then I have a few questions. So, and I'm gonna address the first one, Joe, to you, Estes.
Yes.
Is there a way that we cannot make a ruling tonight and put this off? Only because I happen to also know, as the mayor had talked about, that we are diligently working on taking and revising the code. We are going to have more and more of these instances come up. I do know the property you're talking about that says perfect for a tiny home. They've never been to the city. It's just a sign. And so I apologize.
To find out the city is actually aware that that person is saying that. For me being in Nebraska, the impression was, you know, it was someone I know, but even the point that it said, I have every reason to believe.
Of course you did. And I don't believe that I personally, we don't want to discourage the tiny homes. In fact, it is an alternative way of affordable housing. But back to Joe, my question is, can we postpone this item and not make a ruling either way?
Yeah, if the board wants to vote to continue this to a future date, that's fine. I would just, if we're talking about some of the stuff that came up at the last meeting, there's a little bit of difference there because that was a, you know, difference between what may have been a modular home as opposed to a manufactured home. And, you know, but if the intent is to take some ideas and stuff to the P&Z and ultimately with regard to addressing some of these issues with regard to tiny homes and an appropriate definition for tiny homes and modular homes and manufactured homes, then you can continue it. But the issue would be is it wouldn't be able to be used as a living quarters until some type of resolution.
And sure, do you live in it now?
I'm honest about it.
Yes, Joe.
If isn't there a 30-day maximum someone can live in an RV on a piece of property?
That's entirely true. And you have, and that's a secondary use, yeah, that's primary use, that's secondary use. So it wouldn't be appropriate in this case. And when position obviously that there would be an MOB issue. Yeah, I noticed about it.
So you can't go.
It can be moved to a trailer. That is free for trailer.
Yeah, really.
So if, we table this and it comes back, and so I just wondered about the tiny home, the kind of permitting allowed for the structure itself. That's something that the P and Z would, explore.
Yeah, so I've asked them to look at this whole issue of modular manufactured and RVs and camp, and what would be the definitions of them and how could they be used in an R1 zone.
Right.
So,
What kind of permitting as far as building code permitting?
well, that's what you'd have to, and you understand, this is not a 1 month thing, this is, they're gonna meet, you know, they probably discuss it for 2, they'll have to hold public hearings, would have to come before council would have to pass an ordinance, and it takes 2 times to pass an ordinance, and then 30 days before it becomes effective. So we're looking 6 months down the road before this is ever, even if we start on it today, to make it all those changes. I'm just letting you know. Not a 30-day deal.
Right, okay, but what I just trying to get at is that, let's just say that process happened and that, Jeffrey comes, to the city again, asking to have this tiny home on his property, and the city says, well, you know, you're not permitted, if there's a building code law for this thing, I mean, is that?
It's a zoning issue, it's not building. It's not a building, but it's a zoning issue. We don't allow this on R1.
Right,
So it would change, we would have to change the zoning code and their definition to allow this. What can happen is could be moved to an RV until such a point, if the rules change, you can just put it back with, not have to come before you again. That's,
the tiny, but if you say a tiny home, as far as the, building code, satisfying the building code, that seems to me as though that would be.
the building code deals with, not manufacturing things.
I do, so again, tiny home, that would be, again, needing to be, certified by the.
That's the one next to it.
Okay, okay.
Did you have a
a
question?
mobile tiny home, but if someone were to build, what, the question to me, for me, is that, okay, so he takes the wheels off, puts a pad down, concrete pad, puts it on the concrete pad. Is that then a site build? I mean, because
Is
of
it
the
modular?
pad?
Not under our-
Does it become modular at that point?
Not under the current.
Not under the current rules, I understand that. But are you gonna ask the P and Z to take a look at something along those lines, or somebody with a concrete pad down?
My ask is to look at the whole situation and see how we can deal with all of this and how other cities are dealing with it. So,
When we started that process.
and I recommend all you, if you want to get involved, to come to the meeting and give your input. So, yeah.
Okay, another question. So, if we grant the variance and we allow this to stay there, what then happens? Yeah,
I
I'm
think,
sorry,
I think the actual zoning code right now is good because of the self code.
so there really couldn't be a variance, but we're certainly,
I don't think so.
okay. So, we could table it, return his money.
We don't return money on the table.
I mean, I'm trying to, I think here's what I want to say is, we don't want to discourage anybody from doing this. And what we found ourselves in is a quandary that we had, zoning codes that didn't come together with what you and a few others are trying to do. So 2 weeks ago, a little bit different issue, but yes, we had to not grant that variance. So we're looking for a compromise here, but we still have to stick to the rule. But I don't want you to think that we don't want that there, because we do. We just need to make sure it adheres to the building codes and the building codes are not worried about the zoning code. So I'm actually in a bit of a quandary myself, to be truthful. I feel like because of the zoning code that I'm going to have to deny it. But I don't think I like it.
I'm not in this belief because I don't, you know,
Okay?
am I missing?
You can move it.
Move it, yeah.
I see so many, I put all the money I have in it here. It's, you know, settling it and leveling, you know, I feel like anything I say or do is gonna be negative. And I think,
Well, I can understand, and she can understand why you wouldn't get negative, you know, you put the money in, you put the energy into it, stuff, and now people.
and all the information I got, all the information.
You know, we just can't do something.
I don't know if it'd be inappropriate to table it for a first and the other one.
But can you say it, but can you live in it?
No.
So that you have to clean that's what, yeah, this man needs to have a home. And his materials are better than the homes in that neighborhood, as far as I actually have been in several of them in that neighborhood. These are better quality materials than my
Yeah, they are.
surrogate daughter's home on A Street. That's off-gassing and making everybody ill. So I think that's what we change. This is nice. And I mean, yes, please, do.
Yeah, I'm, again, with Melissa, and all, this is a really tough decision to make. And one of the things that I wonder about is that, so, and it kind of seems to me as though once this goes through the P and Z process, that this would be it. And so that's what makes it difficult. So in the meantime, Jeffrey doesn't have a place to live. But it, as Sharon pointed out, it's a well-constructed home and it's in better shape and safer than things that are already there. And so if we then say, gosh, you know, it's against the zoning code, then, and there you are, but yet in 6 months, it would be allowable. I think that makes it a little difficult.
you know, Jerry.
There's also the option of, 30 days, like you said, and we, that you don't, occupied, home, or not occupied, home, but anybody else occupied parcel, that it would be limitable for them to be 30 days at a time to be one for, well, in the law.
We'll go to grant a 30-day permit while we table this.
Well, where is that?
Not only that, but if you, somebody that already has a primary use of the property, then he can, if you stay in somebody's backyard or whatever, you like to see with a motorhome or trailer, that's the thing happen around town. The permits are free for me, but, and that's also an option as well.
There's no public interest, so. So I was wondering if you would like to ask me a question. That's good, ain't it?
I'll just say, in my personal situation where I'm at, right now, and I know this is a 24 step, how I like it, and the way I'm going. I'm 100% on board with helping the city and the possible to have these semantics worked out. I will, Tumbleweed is the #1 manufacturer of tiny homes. They are the Cadillac of tiny homes. They understand the semantics, you know, what makes this different. I'm perfectly willing to work with the city on that, and I'd be happy to. But if I end up being homeless, I'm gonna have to figure out something else because I'm been doing that for work. You know, I have a full-time job.
Thank you.
I don't have to- Really, thought that it would be everything. I think I'm nothing. So I'm trying to build myself back up. And I do, okay, good morning for help, but there's, if I'm picked off my own property that I just paid $32,000 to build it and put right according to what I thought it was, and the city's gonna say, you can't live there. But I'll work with the city. Get this change done, the mayor and everybody is on board, it has to happen in the future.
We recognize that, and that's tired applicant is that we have not been able to change some of our zoning in accordance with some of the new manufactured stuff that comes out. And I think our planning and zoning commission, look at it regularly, I think. And I think they'll take this into consideration as well as the other issue that we had. When they look at this stuff, we really can't do a lot as a board of adjustment for variance. We just can't give them a variance. I don't see that we can, but we can certainly table this, and if you're willing to come before us in, 6 months, probably? I know that's the answer.
May not need to come before you, if the zoning exchange.
Yeah.
If the zoning change.
Zoning is changed, yeah, I don't, who knows?
I can't predict what.
No, right.
You do have the option, if you are, not satisfied with what the Board of Adjustments has decided, your next step is Superior Court, correct? I mean, you can go to Superior Court and they can overturn what we've chosen to do. Well, there is one other avenue.
There is recourse possibly from what he was told to.
Well, and then, yeah,
That's another, I
there's
just
a
can't
whole
do
other
it.
issue there.
Well, I'm absolutely going after the brokers, on both sides.
That may give you something you can, again,
But
the only option is to move it and rent a place to keep it for a while until all this gets sorted out.
That's the option. If you're gonna stay in Bisbee and want to continue this,
This doesn't feel like a welcome mat. I mean,
well, I can understand why they all feel like
Right,
that.
you're gonna go to Cato?
This is a question for Joe Esty. It, in the zoning code, Article 5, specific plan zoning, section 5.2R1, zone residential, says the Board of Adjustment may not, I'm sorry, these are the rules regarding a variance. The Board of Adjustment may not grant a variance if the special circumstances applicable to the property are self-imposed by the property owner. And you mentioned that, Joe Esty, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. In order for a variance to be granted, it has to be based off of a special circumstance with regard to the property, not something that was caused, a condition that was caused by the owner.
Okay, so we would be in violation of the law if we granted a variance because of this law?
Yes, it could be challenged because the variance requirements, those are statutory. It's not just from the city of Bisbee zoning code. Those are incorporated from state statute as to what is allowed under a variance.
Board of Adjustment is set up by the state, we have to have one, that's why you're here. So, those are ARS laws.
I'm actually ready to talk for a motion. We were all struggling with the same issue here. Is there anybody who wants to present anything?
I move that we deny the application.
All those in favor? I'm sorry, I need to say, is there a second? Sorry. A second the motion.
Unfortunately, I feel that our hands are tied because of this self-imposed, statute by the state. I don't feel as though we have the option to allow this variance, and I have to say, I feel really bad about it, and it's not that we don't want you here at all. I think that, this is the way of the future. The timing is just not correct, so I'm gonna have to say, that we do not. Thank you. Fred?
The same sentiments there, and I really am sorry, wish we could work around it in that way, but I have to go, after this.
So many things have come up. My name is Sharon Stetter, and as we talk, and I keep closing myself down and saying anything. I do believe that the meeting we had 2 weeks ago, part of the decision on my part had to do with the belief that the people's religion that neighbors have had, that they had CCNRs that restricted the house that was being presented. In Saginaw, I do not see the same kind of restrictions. If anything, it's a real hodgepodge over there. And if we're going to start this process, quite frankly, I think this meeting should not have happened because it seems inappropriate if we weren't allowed to go accordingly. So I'm very disappointed that we're even here having to do this under these circumstances. I can't in good conscience deny it. So I'm gonna either say we table it. It's my vote to table it.
There's a motion in front of you.
I know, I have to say it.
No, you can't.
I've made it. And then Melissa Hartman, we also, I'm gonna, again, I'm very sorry about this, but I'm gonna say it. So, yeah. Tell me what we got.
I would encourage you, I would encourage you to kind of keep up with what the city is doing, if you choose to stay here. But the city, and if you need, okay?
I mean, unless somebody has a better idea.
There's several places you can't put the trailer out in
In the whole circus will happen.
And it will.
Since my son died, I've been looking for stability. This is the last thing that we did.
You're on the cutting edge.
You are, unfortunately, everything, it blows my mind how many, it's just, it's shocking how many, municipalities, are not on board with this yet. It's really shocking.
You know, excuse me.
You have to understand, government moves slowly because it's a matter of the people, and so unfortunately, I'm sorry, but you are the first to ever come before us for a tiny home. And sometimes the first or the hardest because you see where we have to go, but you're not there.
I'm gonna go ahead and adjourn the meeting,
Yeah, sure.
and then follow the conversation that everybody would like to have can happen, if that's all right.
Sure.
Please go ahead. Okay, so I keep hearing that this is the first tiny home, and that is not true. There's a tiny home that has existed on the Gulch for a very long time, and it was built on the trailer, and it's right below what used to be Ken Wallace's house. I don't know who lives in that house now, right by the park. And it was actually in Arizona Highways magazine as the first tiny home, and this is back in 19. Statement, probably in the 80s. You realize there's a tiny home.
Zoning
Yeah.
codes have changed since then.
Oh.
Or it may have been a legal
It's not as if it
non-conforming.
was-
I
Here,
know this.
hang on, we got the attorney's turn to speak real quick.
We have to adjourn.
Bill? No. Yeah.
I was just saying that any other type of use can't be used in comparison to this case because we don't know if that was a legal use at the time, which is now a legal non-conforming use. The board has to look at what the current zoning code provides and what the current statutes require.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. With that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Adjourn now. Okay.
A lot of things are in town.
Thank you, everybody.
Right, thank you.
I don't know if